Critical Role Recap Season 2, Episode 22. So we started off this episode with the Mighty Nine having just had a fight with fishmen down in this dank under cavern that seems to be some newly dug out caverns underneath the storehouse that they had been sent out there by the gentleman to find and figure out what was killing his people and recover any goods that they could. So at the beginning of this episode, they decide to go upstairs for a long rest to heal up after the fighting that they had done. And so Caleb does his little silver spool trick where he sets off an alarm basically if anyone crosses over it besides the people that he's decided can cross over it. And they go upstairs, back up through the tunnel using the rope and climbing up through the roots to camp down for the night. They manage to sleep through the night without any incident until early in the morning. The alarm gets tripped and they all wake up and poise ready to attack. And a fish thing comes up out of the tunnel and they instantly kill it. Ford grabs a rope and ties it tight and goes ahead and swims under again to the other side and ties a rope to a piece of rock or something on the other side in order to enable other people to more easily swim across. So they come back and decide that they're all just going to go across via the rope that Ford had posted up and bring the fight to them. Not, however, did not want to get wet. And so she elected to stay back for the fight and to just stay there and guard Kiri, as well as Caleb's books. So the rest of the crew, the Mighty Nine minus Knot and Kiri, went through underwater and managed to sneak up for the most part and get a surprise round on the fishmen that were there in this other cavern. They ended up fighting like 4 or 5 fishmen plus a fish priest who was casting lightning on them while they were all swimming in the water. So they were getting beat up pretty badly. The fishmen had the harpoons with the ropes attached still, so they were chucking their harpoon and then pulling in the person to get another round of attack off on them. Bo got knocked out and Caleb got knocked out during all the fighting that happened in today's episode. Knot finally decided to come aid them after the rest of the crew had basically killed off everything other than the one priest that they had left. Ford used an interesting new ability of his, I think it was called Blink, where he basically only during his turn is he like in the realm that they're in, and then he like blinks into the ethereal realm for the combat until it comes to his turn again. He blinks out of it 10 feet in whatever direction he chooses to go in. So it was really interesting because he got surrounded by fishmen and then used that to kind of blink out and then would just like show up, do some damage, and instantly blink back into the ethereal realm where he was unable to be touched. So that's a really powerful spell that will probably continue to see use in the future. And Matt's going to have to come up with some ways of working around that one. So everything went pretty smoothly, but a few people, it was a bit touch and go for a little bit there. After the battle, they went ahead and started investigating the chamber they were in, found a pool of salt water that was up on this kind of like an altar, and it was also emanating this mist, and all around it were various symbols of deities that were outlawed in the Empire. They also found near the altar various weapons that had been made recently, like of new make and good quality, as well as a couple of locked boxes, and did not manage to unlock both of these boxes while drunk, one of which set off a trap, but she used her mage hand to open it so no one got hurt by it, and the other had no trap at all. In one box, they found a golden curved blade, I think kind of like a scimitar, that I think it also had some jewels in it or whatever. Very fancy, very gold, and Caleb managed to identify it and found out that it seems like it's a sword that has increased damage modifiers somehow, and then also apparently allows the user to teleport around. We don't know the specifics of how that works quite yet, of how the sword functions, but they went ahead and everyone agreed to give it to Molly. It made the most sense for Molly. So Molly should now be able to zip around the battlefield a little bit better than he had previously. And they also found another sword, but I think it had emeralds inlaid in the hilt, but the blade was broken. It ended after just a couple of inches. And apparently it had once been magical, but was no longer. So we don't know what's going on with this blade, what the significance of it is, but it was inside of a locked box, and it is definitely worth some money, even just for the components of it, let alone whatever it was before it was broken. And lastly, inside the pool itself, the pool of seawater that's up on this altar, there was a large, like, cat's eye kind of orb, which apparently had a slit down it, sort of like a cat's pupil. And Caleb was in the middle of trying to identify it when Ford reached out and touched it. And when Ford touches it, he is instantly jerked into a memory of someone, of his captain, his previous captain, in his younger years, who was standing over a dead body in a pool of blood and had this cat's eye orb thing and felt hungry, and so he jammed it inside of his chest to sate his hunger. When Ford came to from this vision, he found out through the other members of the Mighty Nine that he had jammed it inside of himself as well. He told them everything that he saw, and he gave a little bit more of his backstory, and they told him that he jammed a giant orb into himself. We don't know what impact this has had on him, but at the end of the episode, when they were traveling out through the swamp, he had his sword out, and he could see that in the hilt, in the center of the hilt, was the cat's eye, was in his falchion. So his sword has been modified by consuming this orb, but we don't know in what way it's been modified. But yeah, that was pretty much it. So it was a pretty interesting episode. There was quite a bit of combat, and we got a little bit more of Ford's backstory and some new interesting combat mechanics out of the crew. That's about it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next week.